Okay, great. Thanks, Layla. So we'd like to welcome everyone here to the Broadband Access Grant webinar. I'm going to share my screen and hope and pray this all works. Layla's given me lots of training. It's been a while since I've done a webinar. So how are we looking, Layla?
You're looking good.
All righty, here we go. So we have a lot of those of you that are here. I know there's probably a lot of questions and interest in this grant, and I hope, and just wanted to let you know from the beginning, I've kind of broken this down into 3 sections. So the first part is going to be hopefully a quick overview or a fairly quick overview of the grant itself with some explanation of some definitions. Some of the providers have seen this already in a previous meeting, but we're going to go over this first. The second portion will be a brief look at the scoring and how that will look. And then finally, we'll finish up with going through the actual application. So that might probably take the longest of all. You're welcome to stay on if you would like to have some guidance through that, or if you feel like I'm good to go, I've done this before. But just so you know, how the process will work today, and you're welcome to stay on. And if you do have pressing questions, let me know, and we'll have Layla guide the questions for us. So the goal of the Broadband Access Grant is to facilitate broadband access to all Utahns and to offset the last mile broadband capital expenses as designated by statute. So when we talk about last mile, I know we have a lot of providers here, but we have some communities here and other folks. And so I just want to have this understanding that last mile means connecting to the household, connecting to the business. So we've got a middle mile that we need to tie into that runs through the communities, but to actually connect it to the household, that is considered the last mile, whatever that takes. And it is in unserved rural areas or underserved areas. And we're going to target areas unlikely to receive broadband without the grant funding. So those are important things to keep in mind. The grant program is designed around and will be awarded according to statutory priorities, or those priorities the legislature identified in order of importance. And the points will be scored based on the following criteria and in this order. So number 1 is unserved rural area, or an area that is less than 25 download, 3 upload megabits per second is what that all means. An unserved area means an area of the state that is rural and unserved in terms of the area's access to broadband service, and defined as a designated geographic area in which households or businesses are without a fixed terrestrial connection supporting at least 25 megabits down and 3 megabits upload speed. Rural is defined as a county of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th class. The state of Utah has these different designations. Or municipality that has a population of 10,000 or less, and that municipality is in the county of the 2nd class. Underserved means an area of the state that underserved in terms of broadband, defined as less than 100 megabits download and 20 megabits upload speeds. And then also the eligible applicant develops after meaningful engagement with the impacted community to identify the community's needs and innovative means of providing a public benefit that addresses the community's needs. And that include as a component of the proposed project, a long-term public benefit. So I wanted to jump to this next slide just to give a little bit more definition. If there's any questions for some, I know the providers got this down and they're the experts on this, but this is kind of what, if you have wondering, what does it mean, broadband? So just because you have internet connection does not mean you have broadband. So this is just kind of a guide, like if there were 1 to 2 individuals in a household, 1 to 3 devices, one of you is working from home, you're streaming HD TV and movies, no online gaming, no large files downloaded. So this is pretty basic. 40 megabits per second download. So if we're not getting at least 25.3, then you're considered unserved, and anything less than 100 download is underserved. So then you can see if you upping it a little bit more to working from home, streaming 4K TV, which is where technology is headed, and it's here. Casual gaming, large files downloaded, 500. So this might give you an idea of the need and why we have this. Besides this, I mean, we don't even have listed here telehealth, but how important these things are, and education, as we learned this last year. I have it here, a map that shows areas of the state that from our broadband availability map that show as being unserved. So these are populated areas without 25 download, 3 upload broadband speeds. So these areas indicate possible locations, and we have another map that shows areas that are less than 120. So number 4, the statutory priorities needs to be located in an economically distressed area of the state as measured by indices of unemployment, poverty, or population loss. So we have some suggested places where you can look for this, the Department or Distressed Communities Economic Index, and there's a website for the DWS data. You can Google either of these and get this information or something comparable to identify if it's an area of economic need. Number 5, statutory priority that makes the greatest investment and use of funds considering the number of connections or the economic need in last mile connections. 6, that provide a higher speed broadband access to end users. So what we're looking for is technology that's going to provide greater than or equal to 100 down, 20 up, extra points for symmetrical, 100, 100, or gig speed. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. Number 7, so this is something that is required is a 25% match, but we will give extra points if there is a higher match that's given, and we'll go into that a little bit more later as well. This match can come from the communities, from the providers, from other federal dollars, other matching grants, other state matching grants. So there's a lot of places, but it needs to be a money match. So the eligible applicants include telecommunications provider or an internet service provider, a public-private partnership established for expanding broadband, so with the local community and the tribal government. Let's see, the grant requirements for the applicants, the maximum ask is 7.5 million. Only 1 grant application per grant cycle. Oh, I might mention that this is a $10 million funded grant. So a 7.5 million award would take almost the whole chunk. So, but that is the maximum that has been set. Application scoring will include an evaluation of the likelihood that the proposed area will receive broadband service without a state grant funding. So we're going to be looking at other federal funding sources, including anything from the SEC, whether it's the CAP2 or RDOF, USDA Reconnect or others. One thing to keep in mind though, as we're considering, that's a key word, is that doesn't necessarily eliminate, but we're going to look at. So it depends on if these areas can be built out in advance of getting these federal dollars. We don't want to be duplicative of them, and we can't do that. But we would consider. We don't want to be infringing on any providers who are already working on areas and have been awarded these. And so all of these things will be weighed, and we will also rely on providers to help us to be aware of these things, as we will have a challenge process. The construction of the broadband network. If there will be construction of a broadband network within the next 18 months, that would be considered as well. And the applicant shall provide an explanation that considers the impact of all available funding for the proposed project, including a breakdown of all available funds by source. So we will get into that a little bit more too, as well as it being a scalable technology will be given priority. So we're looking to today's needs and future needs. We want to make this the greatest investment for the state and for our folks. So grant requirements for the awardees. If an applicant is awarded a grant, they will be required to obtain a review of the project application by a professional engineer or other qualified individual. So this can happen after the award. Some of the grant funds can be used to pay for this. The review must be stamped by a qualified individual and credentials attached to the review. Awarded applicants will have 30 months from the date of the award to complete the project, and they'll be paid on a quarterly basis with the remaining 25% held until the project is completed. And grant funds are not eligible to fund projects in areas receiving support already from the Utah Universal Service Fund. So that would be one restriction that we have in place. So the application consideration, the application reviewers are going to consider the following: if it's a new project, not in progress, unless the funding would provide an upgrade. So a project in progress means one in which the construction of infrastructure has started. Phase projects may be considered a new project if the phase for which funding is being requested would not otherwise be completed without funding from the Broadband Access Grant. An ability to operate the network is proposed for a minimum of 5 years following the project completion. We will take into consideration the number of potential subscribers, trying to achieve that greatest investment for the state. Also, the ability to provide broadband service at a reasonable cost for the household and reasonable service to end users in the area. And then current available broadband service, provide the reasonable cost or to keep the cost same for the first 3 years. And current available broadband service, which you will show with maps, speed tests, or these are suggested ways, surveys, and document existing infrastructure. Maps will be required. So there will be some supporting documentation that we will talk a little bit more also in the application process. So we'll need map files, design plans, local government resolution and minutes, list of stakeholders and partners, proof of projects financing, budget details, and GREMA form. And then there's a few other forms verifying that you are capable and will promise to do what you say you will do. So now we're to part 2. So we're doing okay. I'll just pause here for a minute. Do we have any quick questions about the overview? And we will get into more detail when we get to the application process. So you want to wait, but if you have a burning question, let Layla know. Layla, do we have any questions? Because I can't see them if we do.
Nothing so far in the chat, but if anybody does have a question, feel free to raise your hand, or if you don't know how, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry to interrupt your flow, but I just have a quick question for those of us who aren't as smart as the rest of the class. You've referenced some available tools such as the State Broadband Availability Map, Distressed Economic Developmental Distressed Area Maps. Will you provide to us links and information to those resources?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So at the end, we have our business.utah.gov/broadband. So on that website, we'll have a link to the grant webpage. And on that page, there is the grant criteria, it's called, and that it's about 5 or 6, 7 pages long, and it has in detail where you can find these things. Also in the application, when you go in and click on the question, I will show you a place where there's a place that you can hover over it, and those addresses, they're in there. They're in the application. So if you open that up, you can find them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. So I just wanted to go over this so you kind of have an understanding of the scoring. This is our basic scoring and what the reviewers will be looking at. So that lists that statutory priority. So we've had to score as much in that order as possible. And so you'll see here on this chart that there's this ranking. So the small box at the left shows the current speed. So down here on the bottom left, I think you can see my arrow, Layla, if you can, and I'm kind of twirling around it right now. So this small box at the left shows the current speed. So if the current speed now is 25.3, whoops, is 25.3 or less than 25.3, excuse me. And then the speed after the build is going to be 25.3. Well, then there's no points awarded because we're looking for much more than that. If the speed is going to be 100 down, 20 up, then this, if it's in a rural area, there'd be 20 points, non-rural be 10. So the highest that you could score for a rural area that starts at less than 25.3 and then is going to achieve symmetrical 1 gigabit speed or 1000 megabits per second speed would be 40 points. So this 40 star here, this is the maximum. So over here in this column on the right, the points possible, that's the maximum that you could possibly get. That would be if you're working in an area that's unserved, rural, meaning less than 25.3, and you improve up to gig speed. So this next one then is or 30 points. So the maximum for an unserved non-rural area or in the city, because this is a statewide grant, but if it's unserved, less than 25.3, and you are going to make improvements down here, if you make them all the way up to 1 gig speed, then you could get up to 30 points. Then number 2 is underserved. So underserved rural, or it's less than 100 down, 20 up. And if you achieve the gig speed, then you could get up to 30. And then finally, the underserved non-rural, less than 100, 20 up to 20 points. The third section, community impact. Need to have, we talked about the meaningful engagement with the impacted community, a resolution, and minutes from a meeting, supporting the resolution, and identifying that innovative means of providing the public benefit. That will be 5 points for that. And then the proposed project, the long-term public benefit is 10 points, whatever that is. So if you achieve what's expected, then there will be a level. If you achieve above and beyond, then you rank higher points. But the most points that you get for this section then would be actually a total of 15 points for community impact.
Hey, Rebecca,
Uh-huh.
we have a question regarding the points. It says, if we have the capability to serve 1 gig over 1 gig, but offer slower plans, do the points go to the highest plan available?
Say that one more time.
If we have the capability to serve 1 gig, I assume that's 1 gig up, 1 gig down, but offer slower plans, do the points go to the highest plan available?
So we will take all of that in consideration. We've got a lot of points to work with. And so that's a component of it as the affordability. And so that actually gets asked a little bit later on. And so those points come in a different section. But that's a good question. And certainly the affordability is a key component of that. And so I can't tell you specifically how that right now how that will weigh out, but I think when the two pieces are put together, that should will work. So this is based on our reviewing committee. It's not just me. I have people who have technical expertise, and definitely whatever you can offer. If you're offering a gig speed and your costs are unreasonable, it would certainly do you well to offer a service that provides less and for less. But I guess you'll have to show that in your model, in your business plan, and how that can help, because not everybody does need a gig speed, and today we will in the future. And so that's that scalable part that we want to see, that you will have that ability, and so there will be points for that. But if today, until you have the number of people who are signing up, I hope that helps. If not, contact me afterward and we'll talk about this, okay? I think everybody would have my email. If you don't, you'll have Layla's and you can get in touch with me. So number 5, the greatest investment in last mile connections, technology, and number of passes. So we want to have a description of the network design and provide this evidence of the scalability and the capabilities of the technology, the ability to upgrade, and the proposed network that meets industry reliability standards. And we'll provide a long-term solution for the community. So the number of households and businesses impacted. So we're going to get 5 points maximum based on the number of people, because this is focused on the rural areas, but certainly there are definite, are considering the greatest investment for the state as well. The highest speed, which will include speed, latency, packet loss, and affordability that are competitive and will meet the community's needs on both upload and download. So there's 5 points for that. Matching funds, the way this will work is, as we saw before, 25%, you'll get 0 points. For each 5% more that you give and match, we'll get 1 point, up to 10 points. Budget and finance, sustainability, implementation. So we want to see that you are financially stable, that you can carry the funds until you are reimbursed on a quarterly basis, and that you are looking at other funding that you can leverage. So we'll have a total of 100 points. Now we're going to jump into the grant application process. Do I have any other challenging questions like the previous one regarding the scoring? To try to stump me. That one was a good one.
So you challenged us, so I have another question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, but I might not have an answer, but go ahead.
I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyways. How are you going to prove the reality of the application? Most technologies can claim to deliver gig speeds, but the reality of what they can do is different. Mm-hmm. So are you going to put that on the shoulders of your technology committee, or how is that going to work?
Right. Yes, and we have access, so we will have engineering reviews of our own. So that's kind of the short answer, and I hope that suffices. But yes, we have the committee with technology skills, and we will have our own engineering review the plans, the location, actually go out physically, and we will verify with this before our contracts are signed.
Great.
Okay.
That's kind of what I assumed. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. So here we have, this is, like I said, the address, the business.utah.gov/broadband. That will take you to our broadband page, and on there you can scroll down and you can find the broadband access grant, or if you throw this last part on the end of this, the broadband-access-grant, then you can get all the way to this page. This is what the page looks like. to access the grant. And we have an apply now link there. So if you're ready to go and you're still on with this, we will take you through the steps for applying for the grant.
We have a couple quick questions here in the chat. So the first one says, does a service provider apply for the grant, or does a community, city or county government apply for it?
Either one can do it. So providers are eligible. They do need to be engaged with the community. It's not going to work if they're not. We don't want to leave the communities wondering if, with Daniel's question before, is like, do they have the capability to do this? We need them to be working together. So either or can apply for it, either the communities or the provider, or they can do it in conjunction. So as I'll show in the application process later, we have a primary contact, a secondary contact, and then we have whoever is going to be the actual signer of the application.
Okay, and then second question, is wireless cell trying to get to 4G or 5 LTE considered broadband?
If it's meeting those requirements, so we are strongly encouraging fiber optic, and those things will be considered. So in the application process, you will see that there's a place for any technology other than satellite. So all terrestrial can submit.
Okay, that's the question. That's it.
Right. So number one, read the broadband access grant terms and conditions. So this is really beneficial for you, really important. Take the time, pull that up. Like I said, it's a few pages long, but it will, hopefully will answer all your questions in advance before you even get into the application. So read, read, read. The next thing to do is, if you are a new user, if you've never applied for funding from the state before, you will need to create a new user completed in the new portal user request form to receive a login credential. And it can take up to approximately 24 hours. So we have a deadline for this grant on November 1st at midnight. Don't wait until November 1st to get this, because we look every morning to see who the new users are to process this. So Monday is November the 1st. Look at that. It's actually a Monday. We will be looking. So if you do go in and create a new user, not until Saturday or Sunday, then you'll be okay, but don't wait until that last Monday. And by all means, do the best you can to do it sooner than later. Hopefully you've got projects already in the process. I probably should have, I want to go back. The new users, you'll need your company name and an EIN number, a Utah business entity number. So if it's a county or a city that's applying for this, you won't need that, obviously. So if it doesn't apply to you, just put in NA. But otherwise, if you're a business, then you will need this and the county of your headquarters. So then you can click on the Apply Now button. And as I said, the application closes November 1 and it's set at midnight. So once you receive that user number, then you will be able to apply. And this is what the first page looks like. So you want to apply, you will be able to update or review, because you can save the application as you go. Now, I took the opportunities, I was putting this webinar together yesterday to go through the application process. And I can see a couple of glitches, but I think it's okay because they're good reminders. So after you click that apply button, I found that this first page comes up. It's called Funding Opportunities. And our broadband access grant is right here at the top, but these are other grants through the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. that are open. And so you want to be sure and click on the broadband access grant. It then takes you to this page, which gives you some really good instructions and helpful tips in completing the application. So be familiar. It tells you again, go to the that guidebook or the packet, read through that again of the criteria, the things that are required, and all about the grant. And then it does mention that there won't be any application deadline extensions. And anyway, just gives you some general information. Then you have to click apply for this opportunity. Then you go to another page, and I'm sorry to say, but it tells you to apply now. So it's just a little summary. If you click on view other funding opportunities, it will actually take you back to this page again. You'll have to click on the broadband assistance grant again. So don't do that. I did that, found out that's what happens. Don't click on that, click on apply now. And then you will finally get this page that says success, that the grant application has been created. And one more time, start your application. And then you will get to this page again that tells you the summary one more time in case you've forgotten. And here it is. You'll see this link, the Broadband Access Grant Program Terms and Conditions. Just remember that you can save and exit. You can come back to it. So if you get started and you don't finish, save and exit, and you can go back. And the little red bar means it's required. So anywhere we have on the application, like here on the left is the red bar, these are required questions. Now, just some other details about this application and how it works. If you, question number 1, project name, okay? So if you hover over this little question mark, this is a question mark. I don't know if you can see it on this slide. It's orange and it's got a little white question mark in it. If you click on that, it won't work. Like, it has little help underneath this question mark, so you have to just hover over it. If you do click on it and you sit there, it's still not going to open. So you actually have to move off of it and then go back and hover over it, or actually move off and click and then go back and just hover. And if you hover, then it will open up another little window and it will say, give an identifying name to the proposed project. So you're going to give it a name, the area where it's located, anything in case, so we can help, you can help identify, we can help identify the area. Same thing with the second one, primary applicant is the entity's legal name. So if it's a county, a city, or a provider, then put that is the primary applicant. So if it's Tooele County that's applying, that's what you're going to write here. You're going to write Tooele County or Tooele City or whoever the provider is in that area. So the primary contact down here is me. So it populated that. So if you want to change that, if you are doing the application, we're assuming you are the primary contact, and it populated that on its own. Underneath some of these boxes, also there's a character limit. So some of these areas you're going to be putting a narrative in, and this just tells you how much space you have left. So that would be something that would be helpful and you might want to watch for. Question 17, I wanted to point out, it asks for you to upload a W-9. So you'll click on choose file and upload. One thing to make sure when you submit a W-9, make sure it's complete, make sure it's signed, and make sure it's dated. So that is a stumbling block for a few people. It won't stop you. You won't get disqualified or anything like that. It just takes longer to process because we have to go back and then we have to open up the portal again and have you submit it again, but just make sure it's signed and dated. And then right down here in question 18, a business license, that would be the business license of the provider that is going to be, you're going to be working with, or the provider that is applying. Here then on the next page question, I'm just going to point out a few little sections. Question 20, choose a second county if the project area covers 2 counties. So here you're going to just put in the first county. If the boundaries cover a second county, just or the majority of it. If there's a third county, I can't tell you. Hopefully you won't be covering too much. But if there is a third county, then just fill it in on another one of these, another box. But that would be a pretty large area. So if your project city is located in Weber, Davis, Utah, or Washington County, please provide the city's population. As I said, if it's less than 10,000, it's an eligible area. And right here, project location and project description on question 23, provide a brief description of the area's geography, location, number of miles of infrastructure, and the project design. Verify that the proposed project area is not receiving the Universal Service Fund. All of this information is underneath that orange question mark. Down here on question 25, provide the maps in a shape or KML, KMZ file. I know a lot of the communities are familiar with that if you have a GIS department. The providers are familiar with that. But if you're not, please reach out to us. So we can help with that, but that's the format that we need it in. Question 26. So when you get to this page on 26, up here, be sure you read all the instructions. This is the greatest investment in last mile connections. Please download the anticipated broadband improvements spreadsheet. So you'll click on this, you will complete it, then you will save it. And I suggest saving it as a Microsoft print to PDF. Then you will choose the file and upload it. So this is a link. This is just kind of a help, so you're not having to try to guess what it is that we're looking for. And I'll share that with you, what that looks like in a minute. 32, download the project readiness. This is the other one. This is the project readiness, implementation, and operation form. So again, the very same thing. Click on this. It's for question 32. We didn't do a really good job of identifying that, other than if you hover over the little question mark, it will tell you to go click on that at the top of the page. So this is what the first one looks like. If you click on the top, this is the anticipated broadband improvements. So we have this hopefully a useful spreadsheet that you can quickly fill out that you can see, oh, we've got, this is the number of passings. It's right here, 0 to 50, 51 to 499, or 500 plus. So this, I filled this out just quickly. I know it's just making it up, but so we have I have 45 passings that are less than 25.3, and they're all going to get gig speed. But I also have an area that has less than 120, but more than 25.3. So I put that number down. And then I put in the latency, packet loss, and I accidentally just threw in some numbers here, which are completely inaccurate, but make sure they're right. So latency needs to be less than 100 milliseconds, and you'll find that in the guide, the instructions. The packet loss less than 2%, and I'm not going to put any data usage caps on mine. So then we also want to know how much it's going to cost per month. So here we have the number of households. I'd say I have 40 households and it's $49 a month. I have one business at $169. I've got 2 farms and ranches. They're going to get it at $49. And in this case, there's no anchor institutions or public facilities because it's way out in the boonies. And so there weren't any. But over here, there are a few more. And so we want you to list how many of these households you have up here, how many businesses, or how many anchor institutions or public facilities or farms and ranches that you are going to be connecting. So this way you don't have to write it all out. You can just fill in the blanks. And then this, again, this is nothing to do here other than just to look at, this just shows the scoring and how it's going to work. And then the other link at the top, this is just the project readiness, implementation, and operation. So this applicant right here, I filled in, oh, I happen to put in Tooele County. Tooele must be on my mind for some reason, I don't know. and they're working with Beehive Broadband. So this is all made up. They're not applying, or maybe they are. I don't know. The project area is eastern Tooele City. So it's over on the east side, I'm saying. And so the project start date, just fill in the blanks. And then I wanted a plan, as much information as you can provide about the process and the dates and when things will start, when you expect to be completed with this. We just want to have an idea of your project. This down here is a narrative. So what it provides, this information says provide a narrative of the business model, including marketing strategies, take rates, sustainability, demonstration of experience. So kind of looking at these things, or just your own narrative, you can take that out and you can put in your own narrative, or you can use those bullets and fill them in how you feel that, or know that you have had experience in the past, or how this will be completed. So then the next section, community impact. So a high priority, as we talked about, of this grant is engagement with the impacted community. And so there needs to be a public meeting. And I know some of the smaller communities don't meet, regularly, and sometimes it's once a month, and this grant is going to close on November 1st. So this is really important though, because we just don't want a handshake. We don't want providers, talking to one elected official and assuming that everybody's all on board. This needs to be a real community engagement. We need to identify, work with the community, find out what the needs are. If it's the cost, maybe it's the affordability. What can you do as a provider? Can you get on the emergency broadband benefit? Can you be a provider of that, so that everybody in the community that needs it can get $50 off a month if they're working through you, because you are working with SEC as an emergency broadband benefit provider. Need a resolution. So if you a resolution and minutes of the meeting. So if you need to have an emergency meeting, so be it. If it needs to be virtual, so be it. Whatever the communities can do to make sure that everybody that needs to know is involved. Also a list of stakeholders. Are there others in the community? Are you working with the Boys and Girls Club? Are you providing a benefit to them? Are you getting something to the library there? Or is there, there's a list in that guide that gives some suggestions of things you can do. Even open access, can be a long-term benefit. Economic need. So describe how the project is in an economically distressed area of the state. So there was a question previously, where can we get to this? This is, I don't know that this is an active link, but you can copy and paste it or type it in, and that can get you to the Department of Workforce Services page. And there's a few links in there. And if you need help navigating that, reach out to me, because I've done it a few times. But they have an economic factors, and you can identify by counties and areas, or I know people that work there, and they can help us to determine if it's an economically distressed area of the state.
Hey, Rebecca, we have another question. Would a show of support be already signed agreements to access rights of way and easements? In addition, says these agreements have taken 1 year plus to obtain and gone through many public meetings.
Okay, so you've already had that and already gone through a lot of that. So yeah, if you can show the minutes of that, I think it would, those are valuable. It doesn't have to be, as long as it's current, that would be the main thing. If it's something that's been way in the past, but yes, having that would be great. I can just tell you though that I didn't make this part up. This is by statute, and so we're just trying to abide by statute. And if our legislators are saying we want you to be involved with the community, however that looks to them, and to ensure that this is happening, please just verify it if you can do that for us. That's all we're looking for, is just a way for you to verify that. And we felt like this was a way to do it, is that if you can show a resolution. So have them put one together. Like if you're already working with them, hopefully it shouldn't be that much more to be able to put together a resolution and take 5 minutes at a public meeting and pass the resolution. Is there another question?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, great. So yeah, and the other one is this Distressed Communities Economic Index. So this is just one that one I just Googled. I'm sure there maybe there's others, but this one kind of shows it in more of a census block. It's in a census block. So it might cover more of an area. And so it might show that there's not an economic need when maybe if you know that there is. So also you can list some other, if you have, like, if you actually go out, if you're working with the Association of Governments or with the community, like I know we have a city, Mill Creek, here in Salt Lake City, and they have an area areas that are doing fine economically. There's a section that's not doing as well economically, and if they can show us, that's great. Or if you can just verify it through your through the city, the elected officials there about this. So these are just some suggestions. We're just trying to again fulfill that statutory requirement where they want this done in an area with economic need. We're not wanting to fund home, a vacation, second home up on the mountains that wants to get broadband and it costs a lot. So that might be another alternative technology that would be better for that, and not to have the state or taxpayers pay for that, but to identify areas that really have an economic need that it would not be built otherwise. There's no way that it could be done because of the circumstances of the community in that area. We're getting near the end. So we have here a budget template. Again, click on that. It will tell you under this arrow. And from this budget template, and I'll show you that next, there's a total project cost. Just enter it here. And this little question mark will tell you to enter it here. It will tell you what to take off of that spreadsheet and enter here, just so we have that handy. But the spreadsheet is to help you as you are, putting the costs in, and then also the cost per possible last mile. So we want you to provide an estimate there. The grant money match down on question 42. And then if you're providing more, then that would be where you indicate this. Question 43. So documentation of the project's financing, including the ability for the applicant to fund the match, as well as the grant funds prior to reimbursement. So this can look like, and it's underneath this question mark again, a letter of credit, a letter confirming funds from a bank, a board resolution committing funding, or loan documentation. If you have any financing partners, list them here, or any leveraged funding, any other grant funds, or you've got a nonprofit or a wealthy aunt who's going to help, let us know. This is the spreadsheet that just shows the expenditures, the revenues. So this is how much the grant funding request is, and then where the other funding is going to come from. So it's just a pretty basic spreadsheet, but just take the numbers and enter from this for that question. And then finally, we are to the end. Again, to get into the grant application, you had to get through 5 pages of apply here, apply here, apply here, apply now. You succeeded. Again, here you get to sign this, and you get to sign here and here and here, like 4 times. We have 4 different documents. The first one is a statement of responsibility. And just to give you an idea of what this is, you are stating that the application's complete, true, and correct, and that you affirm the project details, stating the application, including the technology, the proposed service area, the number of locations to be passed, the business model, project timeline, and budget are accurate to the best of your knowledge. And then affirming the applicant has verified that the proposed project area of the grant qualifies as an underserved and unserved area as defined by code, And then the applicant acknowledges that if its application may be denied or the award revoked, it's later found by us that the proposed project area does not qualify as underserved or unserved. And also you want to affirm that you will have it certified by a professional engineer if you're awarded, and the project will be completed in the time frame and no more than 30 months after the award, and will be maintained for at least 5 years, and that it will remain service price and fees to the end user will remain constant for at least 3 years. So that's kind of the big one that needs to be signed. I will say here, because I know there are issues like supply chain and things like that, that if you are approaching this deadline and you find that it's going to be more than 30 months, just reach out to us. You know, that's not a problem. We will look at the contract and we'll might need to make any modifications, but that is the goal, because we are using federal ARPA fund and their deadline is not much more than that. So it's got to be done. I know they are allowing for extensions, but we have got this 30 months because we're better than federal government, and the state wants to get it done even faster than the federal government says we can. So the other things that are listed that need to be signed, a grandma request, and this is just to protect you and your business for confidentiality. So that's just saying we're not going to share. We don't have to share your information because we don't want to. We don't have to. So make sure you sign that. Terms and conditions when you're working with the state. Declaration of truth and accuracy, and then a review. Like there's a review that you can go through the page, and it just shows you any sections or questions you may have missed. Then you can go back and fix them.
We have another question. It says, is a DUN number required as a provider?
Not in this, as far as I know, because I didn't see any place. And Layla, you went in and you didn't see that in there when you were trying to get your.
No, not for the initial setup for the account. I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah. So as far as I know, no, it's not required by the state. I can double check on that though. So if you want to follow up with me, I will double check with finance or compliance to see if that's required. But as far as I know, no.
And we have another question.
Okay.
Wants to ask if there will be an opportunity for public review / comments on projects.
Yes. So that will be the challenge process. Thanks for asking that question, because I don't think I put a slide in here about that. So we will have 2 weeks, and then we will make sure that these are all posted on that website. All the maps where it's going to be located, where the proposed areas are. As much information as we can share, and will be posted on there, and then we will have a challenge process. If you are a provider and you say, hey, I'm already providing these speeds in this area, that will be the place for that. So yes, that is, we're counting on that. We rely on any of the providers, if they have any issues, to please let us know.
And that's it so far.
Okay, there we go. We made it. 5 minutes to spare. So yes, we do want to help. Feel free to contact me. My name, my email, text or call. This is my work cell phone. You're welcome to use it. I have an office phone, and that's at the bottom of my email signature, I think. This one, you can reach me a lot better, and texting works almost better than email, because I get a lot of emails. So if you need me immediately, give me a text or give me a call. Are there any more questions? And thanks everyone for joining us. I'd love to hear from you. I really would. I'm curious to know if, what you think about this grant, this process, and we've got areas that you've identified that you can use it.
We have a couple of questions from the chat.
Okay.
When are you hoping to award grants?
Oh, good question. That is a good question. I haven't thought that far ahead, but I would say by the end of the month of November, we're going to have these posted. We're going to have the challenge process for 3 weeks. So it would be 2 weeks to get them online, 3 weeks. So that would put us into the 1st of December. So it would be before the end of the year, but I don't have an exact date.
And
This is
other
the first time we've
question,
done this. I want a little mercy. So we have done grants before, but this is the first time we've ever done a broadband grant. So appreciate any input. Go ahead.
okay, and then next question, will there be other phases of this grant after the first 10 million is allocated?
I cannot answer that. I do not know. We'll see. We'll see how well this goes. We'll see how many applicants we get. We'll see how much ask there is. You know, there's a lot of federal dollars and the state is looking at how to best allocate this. It can come through us. It can go through other organizations. I know a few of the communities were able to apply for the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget $50 million matching grant. So we know that there's a channel potential in the future that way. So as long as we keep finding funds in DC, I guess we will use it this way or others. But I think it will be based on how well this goes, how many participate, and if there's any changes at the legislature during this next session. But yeah, we'd like to get coverage across the state and take care of all those green dots on that map and get them all off. Any more?
Yeah. Will these same rules / guidelines be in place for additional broadband dollars from the feds that may be coming?
That's a good question too. So again, we'll see how this goes. If you have any issues or concerns, please let me know. Now is the time when the interim committees are meeting and the appropriations committees are meeting. We'll be presenting to them next week. If you find that you want to see some changes, talk to your legislator. If you feel like there's a better way to do this, talk to your legislator. That's your best channel, but please reach out to me and let me know too.
I have one more question, sorry, and it's actually going back a ways to something you already addressed, but kind of the answer kind of stepped on itself, I think.
Oh.
Earlier was asked about 5G technology being able to apply, and you then referenced terrestrial-based service as what could apply. 5G over cell towers is not generally considered terrestrial-based. So I'm wondering, is it a terrestrial-based service that can apply, or is it just only satellite service that can apply? You understand what I'm asking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it is everything but satellite. That's what I remember from the application. We have wireless that's listed, but I don't know that it specifies that, but there is an other section. So
Okay.
You can put it in the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then we have another question in the chat. Is the applicant match funds to be used first before tapping into the grant funds?
Well, I would say that the applicant is going to need to have funds to begin the build because you will be reimbursed on a quarterly basis. And that's why you need to be able to show your financial capabilities. Or if you've got a supply chain that is giving you what you need and holding the costs until you can get reimbursed. But we will not pay the last 25% until the project is completed. So whether it's right at the very beginning or before the end, it will need to happen.
And that
Is
was
that
the last
vague enough?
question I saw in the chat.
Did anybody have a question that didn't get answered that would like to just open up your mic? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. I would say we have made it through this and hope this has been helpful for you. And if you do have any other additional questions, yes, the recording will be available to review. Later we'll get it posted on that website, business.utah.gov/broadband. Or if you just get to business.utah.gov, we're under business services is broadband, and you'll find it there. Or email me, we'll send you the link. Email Layla, she'll send you the link. Okay, thank you, appreciate you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.